Live from the apocalypse, more visible than invisible, we are covering all the genres. Sometimes State of the Game is action, sometimes it's comedy, sometimes it's espionage. It's all over the map. I am your dutiful host, and my mom's proud of me, so I don't give a fuck. My name is Dan O. And my co-host who joins me every week, is he a friendly bus driver in his regular life? Is he a cardiologist? You'll never know. His life is a closed book. We're talking about K Diggy. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. So
now I'm intrigued.
We were supposed to have 4 guests. No, sorry. Yeah, 4 guests. And we're down to 1. But we made it. So the original thing was to talk about Ritual Stik Figa and the Expert, and talk with Sleep Sinatra and Televangel, and combine this, talk Incorruptible Saints as well, because these albums are connected for me in a little bit of a way. I don't think about albums I don't just think about albums of the year. When I'm listening to releases, sometimes I'm thinking about albums of the career. And these are albums of the career. So that was why I wanted to talk to you about it. And the good thing is, the one left standing that decided to log into the Zoom is one of my favorite people to talk with about rap music, because he hears everything. From Ireland, the Expert is here.
Indeed. Thank you for having me, guys.
Good deal. Good deal. Fried food and alcohol. We are here. So, or is that Scotland? Am I thinking about Scotland? I don't know.
Fried food wouldn't be that big over here.
Oh.
Yeah, as in traditionally, of course we're eating it, but yeah, it wouldn't, traditional wise, that wouldn't really be our thing.
That sounds like Scotland.
But anything alcoholic is, I suppose,
thing of
related to Ireland. Yeah.
So thank you for doing this. And I guess my
Pleasure.
First question that I've always wanted to ask you is, are you okay with us constantly calling you psychedelic? Because that's the only thing we can do to describe your sound.
Well, it's better than bad. So yeah, shit, I'll take it.
Yeah.
And on occasion I definitely lean into it. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I was in some Discord conversations talking about Ritual, talking about how great it is, and everybody's like, man, the psychedelic production of the Expert is so cool. And there are clear psychedelic moments,
Absolutely. I'm a huge, just to kind of put it in context, I'm a huge psychedelic fan, of this stuff from the 60s and to maybe the very early 70s. Huge fan, and it definitely shaped the music I make and I'm making now. And that's not so much even if I'm using it as a sample source, the kind of the sonic techniques and soundscapes that they kind of were using. I'm trying to use the same techniques now.
The Zambezi Zinger,
yes,
and President Streets both have these kind of guitar parts that are really unique to what you do. And I think, the way I remember guitar samples in hip hop is you remember the Cypress Hill rock rap superstar kind of mixture?
Yes.
Where they were basically like, all right, rap rock is popular. We can sample little bits of guitar and make this work. And they did. And it was fine, but that's how I was like, oh, okay. That's how it's mostly done, especially in President Streets. There's a guitar part that's just kind of drony and feedbacky, and it just stretches out all over the track.
Yeah, it's definitely not that song in particular. I think is probably the most psychedelic on the record, and probably the most abstract. And not many MCs would probably choose it, but I knew I was working with someone who was open to abstract styles and to kind of experimentation like Stik is, and also the tempo of it is kind of the double time style that does a lot in his previous work. So it's definitely a heavy guitar fuzz psych piece that I think when it enters into the song, I suppose really bashes the listener in the face kind of thing. And then it kind of goes back to that more abstract sonic drums, which are not kind of boom bap drums, kind of sound effects type of thing. So yeah, I think it's quite an interesting piece of music.
Yeah.
How would you say, as a producer, your sound has evolved over the years?
So I've been making music a long time. I put out my first record in 2001.
Oh, wow.
So that was straight up boom bap. It was it would have been very much of that time, and I suppose the music I would have made for the next, I don't know, 5, 10 years after that was very much, I suppose, in a similar vein to what was going on in New York in particular, that kind of the Def Jux style, sound mixed with maybe classic 90s boom bap. And that was kind of the world I was in. But then I suppose I made some instrumental records then for a couple of years, which would have been jumping in and out of styles like beat tapes to do. But then I suppose I was chatting to Danny, who owns Rucksack Records, so shout out to him. And he was liking the music I was putting out and said, "Have you got anything else?" And I said, "Yeah, I've got some more instrumental records." And I sent him one or two, and he says, "Yeah, this is kind of cool, whatever." And he says, "Have you got anything else?" And I said, "Well, I've kind of been working on something I wanted to do forever, which is like, my idea I sold it to him was it's what's going on, like social messaging and commentary, something that will be relevant for now until the end of time, meets psychedelic music, like, or meets Edan, Beauty and the Beast." And that was kind of something I wanted to do forever since I ever started music. And he was just like, "I'm sold, to send whatever you have on and let's see where we go." And sent them on the Overview Effect album I made with Germicide that came out last year, and he absolutely loved it. And he said, I absolutely love it, but are you willing to wait? I think it was like 13, 14 months for it to come out. And I said, "Yep, that's fine, mate. I'm happy to continue to make other music if I know that's coming out." So yeah, that album and the music on that album is actually very old. A lot of that record, even though it came out in 2022, is from 2012.
Wow.
And actually another guest and mutual friend we have, Zilla Rocca, one of the songs in that batch was $5 God, which was on Vegas Vic, and that's from like 2012 as well.
Right.
So it's a sound I've been building over for like a long time, but I really feel with the Stik Figa record, I feel like I really got it down to what it's in my brain. Like I really feel like I got it, you know.
You feel like you layered it, almost like you built boom bap expert and then you layered psychedelic on top of it.
Yeah, kind of, and I suppose abstraction, and also I had artists who were willing to, allow me to completely fuck with their vocals and mess with them and whack delay all over them, kind of affect them and do stuff like that, because not everyone's down for that, which I totally respect as well. But when I went into the record with Germicide and Stik and one or two people I'm working with since, it's been a kind of a bit of a prerequisite that like just let me do my thing, and I can send it on. If you're not cool with it, let's have a chat and get rid of it and do another thing. But I suppose a lot I'm asking for trust from the artists I'm working with.
Right. No, it makes sense. And that's, yeah, it's interesting because usually you talk to producers and they'll say, "I had this one sound, I hit a wall with it. I did this other sound." For you, it was like it was like, no, and now I'm doing this sound on top of that sound. And
Kind of, yeah.
multiplying
And,
that. So what
and,
was, yeah.
and just kind of to one other thing, I suppose I have to respect the artists that I'm working with as well. So like, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but let's say like when a Primo beat in '98 came on, you knew it was Primo, that was great, and you were kind of buying into Primo. But then I suppose, and that's kind of one style of producer, but then there's other style of producers like, oh, who can I think of off the dome? I don't know, but like someone who would kind of adapt their style to the artist. And I suppose I'm trying to take the principles of what I do, but then it has to work with the rapper I'm working with or that the group or whoever to fit their style. Because it's no point in it being the expert show. You know, it's got to be, you know, very much this album in particular is like Stik Figa and the expert. You know, it was a lot of studying his music, studying, you know, his styles, what he did to make sure it was catered specifically for him so that it worked in his world.
And so to kind of piggyback off that, when you were studying Stik Figa, like, were you familiar with him before you guys worked together?
Yeah, I absolutely loved Stik Figa, and I've been hounding. So the first email I probably sent to him was in 2012 to try and make a record with him.
Oh wow! So and yeah. So what was it about Stik Figa that like? So I guess maybe the word academic. So if you had to describe him like academically, like you're studying him, what did you like? What did you gather from your research about Stik Figa?
I think he's incredibly full skill set in the fact that first of all, he has an amazing voice, quite a unique voice that most people don't have. But then he's able to do a multitude of styles, which I've said to him before, and maybe others felt as well, can actually work against you as well, because if you can do so many styles, some people are like, don't know where to put you in a box to a degree, don't know where you fit. But I suppose with the job of Ritual was to kind of take those styles and put them in a box that people could take all these styles on and digest them. But he's an amazing storyteller, incredible flows. He can do like every type of flow going, whether it's East Coast, West Coast, down south. You know, he can kind of do absolutely everything. He's humorous. He's really clever. He's social. Aspects he talked about. I've always thought he has the full package and was one of those rappers that just needed someone to put, like if it was a movie, to direct it around him so that he becomes the star, because I think often that wasn't the case. And that's not shitting on anyone else he worked with, but I just think the other best project he probably had was full length was either the L'Orange or the August Fanon, probably because they were one album producer ones and they gave him a bit of a sound. Whereas I think if you can work with lots of different producers, sometimes it becomes difficult for the listener to understand what the vision is. And I suppose I was there to kind of give him a sonic palette and vision that people could digest and understand and come into his world.
That's a huge, that's a huge thing. We talked about this a little bit with Black Thought, with El Michaels Affair, and that we were saying this is the first like album with a live band that's been organized around Black Thought. You know, that he's been a part of. That he was a part of all those those Roots albums, but he was a tool in that, in service of the greater mission of the album. Whereas that album is about Black Thought, right?
Yeah.
And amplifying him, and that's a different focus, you know.
Absolutely, and it's a different role for a producer to take, and for the rapper sometimes that you have to play your part. Like, you know, a true collaboration is when the people work together to get the best result. Whereas some collaborations are basically just someone giving a beat and someone giving a rap, you know, fitting their rhymes, and that's it. Whereas, which is, you know, that can work, but I wouldn't. It's maybe not a true collaboration when you're going back and forth saying this would work here, this would work that. What about if I want to do this? You know, and just working together for the best possible song rather than maybe, oh, but man, you cut out those 8 bars. They're my best 8 bars. But it's like, yeah, but the song's too long. Like, yeah, we got to get rid of those 8 bars. Or like he's like, oh, that beat switch, we don't need it. It's like, and I was like, okay, we don't need it then. Let's get rid of it or whatever. You know, kind of. I think you have to be willing to take constructive criticism to make sure that the project is as strong and as good as it can be.
Yep. And oftentimes what we talk about with producers, because when you said there's some producers who completely form themselves around the artist they're working with, I thought of Steel Tip Dove as the example here. But I think like having a signature sound is very cool too. You just have to
absolutely
and evolve it. So what you're talking about is a balance between having your signature sound and developing your signature sound and collaborating fully with the artist to give them the best, sound for what they need.
Absolutely. And I think it's more interesting for a producer to kind of be able to adapt and style and change for each artist. So that's kind of part of the fun. Do you know what I mean? Like, well, that's a part that I see, is that you're kind of, for each project or album you're working on, you're almost you're kind of challenging yourself to do something new and fresh for that particular project that fits that person. And that's often just a part I really enjoy when I make music. So, yeah, and I'd like to think that it challenges the artist or the rapper as well to do something fresh and new that they mightn't have done on other projects as well.
Yep. Yep. Tell you a story, Kay.
Yeah.
So this is my first episode back after Chicago. Wonderful, incredible time in Chicago, where there was a Free Music Empire show that was thrown. Rich Jones organized it. It was at Bric-a-Brac toy store and record shop, and so rappers are going to come on at 4, 3 to 4. There wasn't anything on, so they were like put on. Maybe you could put on a Free Music Empire playlist, right? And I was like, I'll put together my favorite songs of the year. I was late because we were on the bus, but when I came in and pressed play, the first song on that playlist was The Forgotten. The first song. And it was like, let's go. That song is unbelievable to me.
Thank you very much.
And I told Stik that it's like Black Album energy to it. Like it has that, if this is it, and this is who I am.
Yeah, so I think we've spoken a bit about it before, but I don't know if everyone knows. So when we were about halfway through this record, Stik Figa told me he thought this was the last album he was ever going to record, that he was going to retire, and this would be it. And it kind of knocked me for six in one way, because I was like, oh man, that's like just shit news in general. And then when I ingested it, it was kind of like, or digested it, was kind of like, oh shit, now I've like, I'm the guy holding like the baton to kind of take on the last stretch of what he walks away with. So I kind of felt like I had to give him a certain kind of way to walk off the stage, if you want to make sense. So that beat in particular, The Forgotten, I actually have had that beat. That's another beat that I'm not going to lie to you, I've had since 2012 or 10 or whatever. And I actually was holding that for an awful long time, thinking if I ever do a producer album, my own one, that would be like the final song. So I'd been holding it for a long time, because I knew it was a very rare record, and I really thought very few people would hear it or sample it, that I'd have this piece of music and chop it up the way I did. But when Stik told me that, I was like, I have to give him this beat. I was like, this is how he walks off. Like, as a fan, this is the least he deserves as a way to, walk off stage. And I kind of told him what I thought, we should do with it. Kind of even the lyrics was from another song we had been doing, and I was just like, this is it, man, this is it. And he'll probably, if you're talking to Stik, give out to me like crazy, because I asked him to record it 5 times. But I really wanted him to catch that that feeling of like the importance of the message, and that I kind of knew the way it builds and builds and builds, that like if people would if it ended the CD or the the stream or the vinyl, that they'd walk away going, holy shit, man, that was amazing. And I think a lot of people have said to us they really connected that song. So I'm super proud of what we achieved with that, because that's what we wanted to do.
Now, you said, you mentioned something Israel said. You said that you created half of the project, and then halfway through, that's when Stik told you that, yeah, man, this is going to be my last album. So did the context of the album change? Like, once you heard that that news, did that change the context of the album? Like, did you make adjustments to the full project?
It definitely became a bit more introspective, and I think that's where kind of more the jazziness, psychedelia came in, where I just wanted to give a space to Stik to be able to, I suppose, pour his heart into this stuff. And I think there's a lot of really heartfelt stuff on this record, as well as it being like kind of just cool shit talking and amazing rhyming. There's a lot of heavy stuff on this record as well, but it's coming from a kind of really emotional place. And I think that the music really helped bring some of that out, or give it extra weight to the words he was saying, because he's like, Stik is incredible on this record, absolutely incredible.
Right. He I mean, we'll talk more about this in 8K. Stik is special because he says it a few times on here about like being simple, but like no one understood, so we tried to oversimplify. On Black America, he says that. Like, he gives you clues on here as to like, I am making this as simple and straightforward as I can, so you won't miss anything. Like, you won't misconstrue this. But it's deep, man. That description of on Black America of how you kill a guy, the guy that died get vilified, the victim is somehow the guy that's still alive. That's just an incredible, succinct way to knock the whole thing over.
And like, some of the words are just really powerful on this record as well. I think whether that's he's talking about the social issues in America, or he's talking about his personal life, like in The Forgotten, or about his children on Yaz Shorthand, or even Lonely Planet, like kind of, I suppose, about his career and himself, and maybe, and like there's kind of like suicidal references a bit, but then he talks about how his family is really important to him, and he touches on a lot of subject matter in this record that's just really incredible. It shows what a breadth of skills he has, I think.
And I think the adjustment that you made with this, and you can tell me if I'm wrong here, because the overview effect is incredible, right? It's incredible. It is, but it is powerful, muscular, psychedelic stuff, right? It shit jams, but it's very psychedelic. The Ritual, he's a soulful dude. Stik is a soulful dude. Right? He loves soul music. He loves old soul music. So you still gave him that,
Dare I say it's a more palatable listen, if that makes sense. Like, it's a more, I think it's easier to reach a wider audience. I think the sonic choices made on this record compared to Overview Effect.
So what is a great example of, like,
exactly,
that's a perfect soulful thing for Stik. So it's like almost three elements. It's like the soulful stuff, the psychedelic stuff, which when I'm talking about psychedelic sounds, what I mean is layers, right?
Yeah.
Layers of kind of fuzziness, right? So you get the soul, the psychedelic, and then the boom bap, muscle to kind of push it forward. And so that's, to me, that's the sandwich we have.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think on this record there's a lot of jazz too, but yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, no,
Yeah,
they're the four elements. Sorry, Keith.
Oh no, I'll let you finish this out because I did have a question to piggyback on that. Like, I think I've asked the question like when a rapper listens to a track, what are they listening for? But I've never asked a producer like, what are the elements like when you're creating a track? What are the elements that you're looking for? Like, what are the factors, elements that you're considering or factoring in when you're creating like a beat?
Is this without lyrics?
Yeah, because without lyrics, I guess. Like the lyrics of the rapper?
Yeah.
Or without lyrics. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so I suppose when I'm starting a project, and most producers probably the same, you're starting off with 5 to 10 beats, or shit, maybe more for the people, I don't know, where you're just trying to get kind of a similar sound to and a style to kind of send to someone to see if they're into this, if this is the direction they're going, or you might give one or two different kind of styles to see which one they're into. Then once you have a couple of agreements of where you're at, then I would kind of sit down and think about, this is just me, if I'm thinking about putting an album together, I'm definitely thinking about the first song, I'm definitely thinking about the last song, and I'm definitely thinking about one or two songs in the middle. And I'm almost thinking about sequencing while I'm making records, because you kind of need ebbs and flows. You can't just have 10 bangers. Well, you can, but I suppose that's not what I was going for this record. So I wanted to bring along a bit of a journey, so some would just be like, kind of, if you want to say, melancholy songs that I'd be going for that style. So I'm actually intently trying to make a melancholy song that will bring something out in the MC. Others will be like a straight up banger. I'm just trying to, get them to do bars, and just go crazy and give them a space to just really rap. And then I'm going into the more, I suppose, kind of nerdier sonic details, like with the Forgotten, or let's say with You Know What, the Green Monster. I was essentially making singles before the rapper even had them. So like I was in building choruses and hooks in them. So like I had that sample, like, You Know What, and I would say to Stik, let's just make sure that that's a hook that goes on and on through, and yeah, every fourth bar you're kind of going to that. And then with the Envy in My Eye sample, let's like make that the chorus, and then you kind of play off that. So there's a structure already for them to kind of insert their verses into it. So yeah, a lot of it would have been like very built, like 8-bar intro, 16-bar verse, 4-bar bridge, verse 2 or hook, so like I would all kind of tell Stik sometimes like, this is how you have to write the song, because this is what's going to work for the listener or for people ingesting it. So that'd be one thing. Another thing I will say is that maybe unlike some other people, my favorite part is actually when I get the vocals back, because then I'm able to change the structure of a song. So maybe a song was a 4-bar loop and it was just that for 3 minutes. But after hearing the verses back, I can go, oh, okay, well, I need to do a dropout here. The way his story is going or the verse is going, it feels like it needs a change to bring an emotional weight to what he's saying, or to a melody or something. So that's actually my favorite part, is when I have the vocals back, so I can shape it all around the lyrics to turn it into a real song and track, rather than, I suppose, a beat and lyrics, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Is there a song on this album that you did that with?
Yeah, so President Streets was definitely one of them, where I suppose that guitar, it would have been just mainly the verse bit, that Stik had, but I kind of was able to insert that big guitar chunk, and then also that kind of there's kind of a harp bit for 8 bars where he kind of does this singy, warbly harp in the background, and it goes into really heavy psych drums at the end, and that was all definitely catered around the lyrics. And then Cost of Business was another one where he rapped over 4 bars beat essentially, and I kind of added in the Snoop and Dre kind of hook. I then put the reverse 808s and the reverse drums at the end with the strings. I kind of wrote the string piece, and then I also then got my an Irish pianist and composer to kind of write the outro funeral bit. Rod Peter, Pay Paul Bearer to kind of
gosh, the piano on that is beautiful.
Yeah,
I mean, I was struck by that today. It was like, and it really, moments like that, I don't think people appreciate enough. They really add weight to an album, because like you're saying, you can have a 4-bar loop that repeats for 3 minutes, but that's what we expect, right?
Yeah.
So when we all of a sudden get this beautifully composed piano outro in the middle of this, we're like, wow, this thing has parts and pieces, and it's ornate, and you can feel the sounds, that's the powerful part, right? That's the powerful part of this music, when you can feel the instrumentation with you. There's so many albums, Kay, where Kay is logged into the Zoom and said, this must have been a live instrument. And he was like, nope.
Yeah.
Because a producer can make it work in an interesting way. So but the other thing I was going to say, we've also talked to a lot of people who said, like you said, I need to know what's in the end, I need to know what's at the beginning, and I need to know what's in the middle. And what I think is it's probably easier to grow the album towards the middle, right? If you know the last song and you know the first song, then you're naturally going to be thinking about, well, what goes before the last song? What goes after the first song? And then you start growing it to the center,
Yeah. And also the features, we got lots of great features in this record, and shout out to everyone who helped us out, because they all were amazing on it. And I think that also kind of helped shape how we put together the track listing,
We should go into a feature section, because this album has some truly insane features. Okay, I would like, one of my guest star MVPs of the year is Don Will.
Love Don.
And this Zambezi Zinger is exactly, whew. I mean, we black and elegant, just let us be unbothered.
Yeah. And then I cut out the beat for that next whole bit because it's so powerful.
That's unbelievable. Like there's times where Don Will is pleading for a better world, like in his verses, and you can catch it, and it's unbelievable. And whew, the blue, like, I used to be a Christian, and now I study other religions, and like Blue's mind is so nimble.
Oh, he's amazing.
And he can just go wherever. Like, one of the most talented people that I think has probably ever been here.
He's incredible. When we got that verse back, we were blown away. Me and Stik kept on going back to each other, just going, can you believe this is going to be on the record? Like, we were just like, yeah, it's amazing verse. He killed it.
And Service, like, the wild part about Service to me is when Def C starts his part, I was like, they got Rob Sonic? I thought it was Rob Sonic. And the crazy part is I've never, ever thought that Def C sounded like Rob Sonic before. But on that verse, to me, he kind of sounded like Rob Sonic, and he still does when I hear it. It's
Rob Sonic.
It's Def C is so cool because he gives a unique guest verse. He doesn't ever give you the same guest verse he gave someone else.
Yeah.
It's a new delivery, it's a new tone, it's a new,
And so many great lines in that verse.
Oh,
yeah. And so how did the guest features come to be? As in, I mean, in terms of placements, like how did each feature end up where it ended up on the record?
Well, just to quickly say, so we were probably about, I don't know, 4 tracks into the record, and me and Stik said, okay, who would you like to get featured on the record? I think we put together a list of maybe 8 to 10 people, and like everyone who's on the record was on that list.
Wow.
So we were blessed, but there was, I think there was only one kind of person we initially asked for one of the songs that it never happened, and then we got someone else, and thank God, even though I don't believe him, Solomon Brigham was the one who replaced, and that is my favorite verse on the whole record. He just comes in like a train on that track and absolutely destroys it. So I suppose then the placement was, well, we just thought that You Know What was just needed to be really at the start of the record, just because it's just such a feel good record. Like a kind of it's kind of hard to dislike in a way. Like, so we just thought that was a perfect, really early placement. Then Zambezi Zinger with Tanya Morgan, we wanted in that, we knew we kind of wanted that at the middle of the record, and I actually wanted at the end of side A, because at the very end of the record it goes type of thing, and I thought that would be so cool if your record actually stopped on your turntable as well before you flip it over. And then we got, and before that is the Solomon Brigham. We wanted a high energy kind of single at the front of the record, so that's where we picked that. Then I don't know if you know, but kind of like, is it track 10 and 11 or 9 and 10? Anyway, Service and President Streets are together because
10 and 11.
Yeah, we kind of felt the record needed a bit of a turn there to kind of keep people interested. And I think those 2 songs are the most abstract probably on it, but they're still extremely palatable. But we thought it was time to kind of change it up a bit there, and that's why that was placed there. And then we wanted the All to kind of come in and bring back a bit of the soulful kind of psychedelia back to the record before they're forgotten. And actually, the Sleep Sinatra recorded over a different beat, and it was a different beat switch. And when we got it back, we both loved it, but we kind of thought the music in his section overpowered the words, because he just absolutely kills it. So I was like, I think we need to pare back the beat there to let him breathe. So I actually made 13 different versions of that second for his second verse, and I couldn't pick which one to do. I kept on thinking I couldn't, and I suppose that's the level of detail I was going into this record. So I made 13 different sections for his verse, and shout out to my man Ricky Sambo and Controller 7. I sent them the 13 versions, and they sent me back like the top 3 or 4, and then I sent them to Stik, and Stik, Controller 7, and my man Ricky Sambo all picked the same one. So we were like, yeah, this is it. And then we sent it to Sleep Sinatra, and we were like, yeah, this is it.
That's awesome. No, it makes sense. I mean, that is the level of detail here.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, earlier this year, Stik released, Pookie, Stik Figa Has Himself, which is
great record,
his personal album, and everybody should check it out. If you're in because of the Ritual, go back and listen to Pookie. But this is his center stage piece. This is the event of Stik Figa, and it really feels like an event album that celebrates everything you love about Stik, which is carefully done, and that's what's cool. I mean, I really like that. Yeah, I mean, Solomon Brigham goes nuts on the Green Monster, and his voice sounds really good with Stik.
Yeah, it's
momentum. Solemn Brigham raps with momentum.
so
Right?
so just to kind of give you a bit of insight. So when we didn't know he was going to be on that record, probably for a week we were going back and forth saying, "What about this guy? What about this? Or what about this? Or who it is?" And then I suppose we were going through rappers' names, stuff, some attainable, some not, wish list and stuff.
Right. Sometimes.
And then I thought, holy shit, actually, Sam and Brigham perfect, and plus Stik might be able to know him through Larange because obviously they made a record together. And I remember I sent it to Stik, and he was like, "Oh shit, that's perfect." And then when he was down for it and he sent it back, and the two of us was like, "Why didn't we think of this like at the start?"
It's like, oh, best idea we've ever had.
Yeah, so it just, that was the one that I think both of us, when we actually came to the realization of who would fit that beat, we were like, "Oh, this is just perfect." I'm so glad he did it because, as far as I know, he hasn't done a feature before that. Like,
hey, you may be right.
I don't think he's done a feature before this.
Yeah, he's done solo albums outside of
And
Orange,
he's done
but
Marlo, but that's it.
I don't remember seeing him pop up a lot on other people's work. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's cool to have Solemn Brigham as kind of a younger generation, and then to have Blue and to have Tanya Morgan representing a different generation. It's just really cool to have everybody there, and what a Sleep Sinatra verse
Beautiful.
on My All. Just rap game Magneto, as I always say. Men smarter than me told me follow intuition. Hard work beats talent. It's better to be consistent. I think that was. Oh no, that was Stik. That was Stik.
Yeah, but that is a great line.
That's a great line. It's just you. But yeah, there's moments. What the cool part about Stik and what Stik does on this album, because I don't think he's had this kind of spotlight before. Like Hearsay with August Fanon is a fantastic record. And what was the other one he did?
I think City Under the City was.
Oh, right. Laurent. But this is like the biggest sound that he's dealt with. So being in center stage, he does this nimble dance of jokes and clowning you, like thoughtful, introspective, thinking about my own, spirituality, religion, whatever. And then being like, I'm just a guy, I'm just like average guy raps where he's like, where he takes shots at himself or says like, hey, smarter than people than me have done this or that, or that. Like he takes the air out of himself sometimes.
I think he's really relatable, I think some of the songs in particular on this record, like The Forgotten or whatever, really, I suppose people can relate to it,
Yeah, I mean, but then I just wanted to throw in, like, at the end, once the third leg of President Streets, where he says, "You scared, you stay in the house. Outside, we make it a mouse. No time for playing around. I can't entertain any doubt." We've discussed with Stik how he's not a gangster, but he's grown up around this street. And so there are moments like that where he roars and he can't do anything but be in the presence of that.
Yeah. So what were we going to say, Kay?
Yeah, I did, because you touched upon something. Where did the record where did the album title come from?
Yeah, so that actually took us some time. So the working title was Looks Like Rain, and we had that for ages. But we actually had an artwork done with it. But it was too on the nose, and it kind of felt, I don't know, maybe a bit too gloomy possibly or something. I don't know. We thought it was too on the nose anyway. So we kind of were throwing around titles and what we thought it represented, kind of what are words that encapsulate everything we were trying to say. And I thought there was a huge amount of religious themes on it, as well as it just being the ritual of his life, of, you know, ritual of how we make music, both of us. And so I just said the rituals, I think, and he was like, "Nah, man, ritual, that's it." He's like, "Ritual," and I was just ritual, and I was like, "Yeah, perfect." And then my man Gavin, shout out to Gavin who does all my artwork, kind of did the cover of like kind of surrealist, kind of religious, but also kind of psychedelic cover, which I think just really suits the record. I just think it kind of tailor made for the album. So yeah, he really blessed us with that, and yeah, just that's what it was. So yeah, I think it has like maybe Stik will answer it a bit different, but it definitely kind of the lyrics are what made me think of Ritual, really.
Got it to the giant bird.
Indeed.
Amazing.
So the because that's interesting. So the title, you had completed the project essentially, and then the title came after the project was completed.
Yeah, I think when we lived with it, I suppose the working title when we were working on it was Looks Like Rain, but I think when it actually was complete and we were able to sit back and kind of digest it as a listener more than, I suppose, someone working on it, I think we were about like, nah, this isn't right. So I think that bit of time we had at the end really helped us to kind of come up with the title.
Yeah, no, I'm with it. That works for me. Yeah, we should talk more. Yeah, I can't wait to talk to Stik about the lyrical end of this situation.
Yeah,
indeed.
Because what a piece of work it is. But I will say, I have listened to this album a shitload. Before you booked the episode, like it was on our mid-year list.
Nice.
It was, I think it was 25 or 24 on the mid-year list, and it had like just came out, you know.
Yeah.
Because I was like, this. It's addictive. It's an addictive album.
Yeah, it came out June 16th. I think we did the mid-year show like what, the week after ish.
Yeah.
So
yep.
Maybe it's climbed up since then.
Yes, absolutely.
It's already amongst elite company in my most listened albums, but yeah, on Bandcamp. So, but yeah, I appreciate it. I think your work on this is incredible, and I have.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that.
I've always heard your name from Zilla, right? Zilla has always been like the expert is the shit, and I was always like, okay. And then the overview effect, I was like, oh shit. Like that was the first time I had heard more than a few of your beats in one place.
Yeah.
I was like, damn. Like yeah, your sound is propulsive. Your underground rap, can get very sleepy.
Yeah.
It can get very
I love drums.
And dim and like, yeah, moody. And you've got an ability to really blow it up big. And people need that sometimes.
Yeah, like I suppose I'm just trying to, and like I suppose I'm, like you said, perfectly fine with the term psychedelic being attached to me because I want to be different. You know, I don't kind of want to sound exactly like everyone else doing the same thing. If I do some songs within that vein, like that's, of course, that's absolutely cool, but it's nice to feel like it's a bit different to what everyone else is doing. And like that will put some people off, but it will bring other people as well. So,
and we can think about Preservation as an example, right? 2015, Preservation is working with Ka, right? Doing the Yen Lo album, and there's no drums, and it's moody, and it's spooky. And yeah, you fast forward to Aethiopes, and that shit knocks.
It's funny. I was only chatting with Controller 7 this morning about Preservation. We were just saying how great he is. Yeah, so that's funny you bring him up.
He's probably one of the best. I mean, it was just completely a unique thing. And Aethiopes in my mind sticks out so much. Okay, you remember this from the release because it's the meeting of two incredibly unique artists, right? It's Preservation does not dominate the market with lots of music, right? No. So you're never going to get bored. He comes out of the shadows and does something completely unique. So those kind of people are cool and special to me. I'm ready to go to recommendation corner. I'm excited to do this with the expert who is a whirling dervish of recommendations. So I'm going to kick off, show you how it's done. So I'm going to recommend The Blaxploitation by Patty Honcho.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Me and what was it? Sconeezy on Twitter. We're just going off about this album. It's so fucking cool. It's Patty Honcho's got a crazy flow from Paterson, New Jersey.
Absolutely.
And this is his full-on blaxploitation album with interludes and it's just it's just a great excuse for him to kind of take the 70s acid jazz feeling stuff and just rip it with this incredible flow. I can't get enough of it. Yeah. And another one that I've enjoyed and figured out is Chung Shui 2 by Chung and Katola. When I originally heard it, I did not understand it. I was confused because it's slow. It's a slower deal. But I re-listened to it and I was like, nah, this is really cool. And on the second listen, I was like, I get this. It's slow because it's confident. It's moseying towards you. And I like that. I like that about it. You know, if there's a reason for things to be slow, I'm down for that. If you're just trying to annoy me, then I'm not into it. But expert, what do you got? What are you listening to? Recommend me. It can be new, old, whatever. It can be whatever.
Okay, well, some of the newest hip hop I've been listening to is Capri Sun, with two I's, CAPRIISUN, and the producer's name is Moriarty, and they have a new album, and yeah, I'm really liking that.
So it's CAPRIISUN.
Yeah, Capri Sun.
Like the drink Capri Sun with the two eyes.
Capri Sun, yeah, exactly.
Is it one word or is it two words?
It's one word.
One word.
Yeah.
One word, baby.
So yeah, man, I really like that record.
Is it Calliope? Is that?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, it's only a couple of weeks, so that's great.
I gotta put that on the wish list. Let's go.
Then what else have I been listening to? Obviously they're not here, but the Sleep Sinatra and Televangel records. My man Video Dave and Controller 7 record is fantastic.
Cool album.
Yeah, really great. King Cashmere and Alex Delarge is great. Have you checked that out?
To jump in, we had the interview with them, and when the release day came, I cut our 7 to 10 minute discussion of that song with Dessa. We just went off about that long-term plans or whatever, or trip, and it's just so good. And Video Dave retweeted it, and it's got a bunch of views. It's cool. It's cool to have that as part of it. There's comments on it. I'm so glad that this conversation exists. I love this song, so it's cool to be a part of that.
And then I suppose I'll just pick if anyone is listening to this podcast or watching this because they like Ritual and they have never heard Edan, Beauty and the Beat, listen to Beauty and the Beat. Then just so I know, what's a classic record I like that people should listen to?
That's your homework right there. Yeah.
I love the Alcoholics, Coast to Coast.
Oh wow, that's a good deal.
That's like a 95 record I
It's a
absolutely
good
love.
show.
It's kind of random.
Good show.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if it's other music we could be here forever.
I can add up. My son got a phone recently, and he's got Tidal and I've got Tidal, so I started giving him homework. I started texting him albums to listen to, and I would be like, whatever genre, just tell me a genre, and I'll give you some homework, right? And so he said punk rock, and I sent him Gang of Four Entertainment.
I have some Gang of Four records here.
He loved it. He loved Gang of Four Entertainment. It's hard to find somebody who doesn't enjoy that experience. It's a hell of an album.
Yeah.
But yeah, I sent him Pearl Jam's 10. I sent him Low End Theory, you know?
Classic.
I'm just trying to get him in on some of this stuff.
Yeah. Love Forever Changes. Have you ever heard that record?
Oh, Love Forever Changes. That's a really good, if I was to describe psychedelic, right? I mean, that's a great way to
beautiful record.
Yeah, like I don't have any recommendations this week, but I was interested, like, what are some, if someone wants to get into that psychedelic scene, I guess, what are some records they should check out?
Love Forever Changes, The Zombies, Odessa and Oracle, or the United States of America is the name. I think there was a band in the 90s called that as well, but there's actually a band in the 60s called the United States of America, and that record is absolutely incredible. Then there's oh wow, Jesus, who else here?
Can I tell you?
Ahead.
Can I? My favorite pocket of psychedelia.
Yeah.
This is weird. You're gonna think this is weird, but some of the older groups, doo-wop groups, soul groups, like the guys that were all in one suit, clicking, together and all that stuff. Those guys started going psychedelic.
Yeah, I love when that stuff started happening.
So there's a Temptations record where there's like 14-minute versions of songs and shit, and it's crazy, right? It's like late 60s. The one that's my favorite, and I don't even know if you can find it. It's called Reflections, and it's by Little Anthony and the Imperials.
Yeah, no, it's great.
It's and I put it on. My wife hates it. It creeps her out because those are like classic doo-wop dudes, and they're saying weird shit and like, was my love is a I don't know. My love is a I gotta find some. It's that shit is fucking incredible. But I love those points of time where like those guys were just released from the bonds of those tight structures,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I love that like everyone tried to go psychedelic for a couple of years, no matter who they were. It was brilliant. And lots of those bands that kind of attempted psychedelia, whether even if it's the Bee Gees or whoever we're trying it, it's kind of like, whoa, like some of this shit is wild.
Oh, if you want to find it, Kay, I found it. If you want to go on YouTube, look up My Love is a Rainbow by Little Anthony and the Imperials.
My Love is a Rainbow. Okay, I'll write that down.
That shit is wild. I love My Love is a Rainbow.
But there's so much, and the thing about the psych scene kind of back then is that so many of the bands only had a couple of tunes or songs that were like ever released, whether that was just on 7-inch or just became popular, and because it was more of a singles market back then. So yeah, it's interesting how some of these bands made incredible songs, but that's it. They never had a full album or stuff like that. So yeah, it's amazing. But there's tons of them.
Do you consider the Kinks part of that? Like
I do, yeah. I think they do. Yeah, I would. Yeah.
The Kinks.
The Kinks are amazing.
The thing about the Kinks that I think is so cool, Kay, the Kinks are the most British psychedelic thing of all time.
Yeah.
It's very psychedelic, but it's extraordinarily British.
Absolutely.
Inside references to things happening in England at the time. The Kinks are dope, deeply dope.
Amazing. Sure, they have a couple of Stone Cold classics in a row. The Green Preservation Society and all that. So yeah, absolutely amazing.
Yeah, Green Preservation Society is on those lists. If you Google like best psychedelic albums, you're gonna bump into Green Preservation Society, Love Forever Changes. Like there's gonna be on the roadmap, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, but I love psychedelic was durable, was pretty durable.
Yeah.
As a sound. And so it was able to fit with a lot of interesting different pieces, which I think if people ever think, oh, expert, he does psychedelic boom bap, like that is not going to limit you.
No, because
psychedelia has, so many tentacles.
And it's actually funny you mentioned kind of like the groups who incorporated it in kind of 68 and 69, because actually that kind of soft psychedelic, so like really pop artists even putting it into the records, and I actually love that kind of really like it's not fuzzy, loud, heavy, it's kind of like in their harmonies and in their vocals, and not to, but like that's where I'm going next is what I'd say.
Ooh, Beach Boys feel. Let's go.
So yeah, kind of love all that stuff.
Yeah, I would love to hear your sound with like a singer.
It's funny you say that. I did wonder what it would be like to work with a singer. Yeah.
Like, and I don't want to become matchmaker here, right? But I don't know if you've ever heard the Nate Barksdale album with Chong Wizard.
I actually did hear that when it came out, but I'm not gonna lie, I don't really remember it. But I did listen to it.
Yeah, Chong really threw him some interesting stuff, and Barksdale, like, made some changes and really did that. So it was real good. I still love that album, and Barksdale is just a real. It's the colors I've never seen. Is what it's
check
called.
that out again.
Yeah, and it's 8 songs. I just feel like there's somebody like that who's just like a visionary in their own form. Oh man, do you remember Kay when we talked to the Lasso?
Yeah, that was a little while back, but yeah.
A Billy Free would be another great candidate.
Billy Free.
Billy
Free. Actually, yeah, they're all over the records, aren't they?
Yeah. A Billy Free would be great. If you listen to that, the Holy Body Roll, she's incredible. But yeah, I would love to hear you with a singer for a full record. Just stretch your sound because you can do whatever you want. I mean, yeah. So I've always thought the world of you.
Thank you very much.
As a big Zilla Rocca fan, you've had my favorite songs on a couple projects.
And look, shout out to Zilla and the whole Wrecking Crew.
Yeah,
big fans of them. They've been supporters of my work for a long time, and I look forward to working again in the future and hearing what they do next.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Kay, I do that too. Like, I don't know. Wrecking Crew has done a lot for me and done a lot for us. Whenever I have big moments in my life, I'm always wearing a Wrecking Crew hat. At Chicago, talking to Def C in person for the first time, wearing a Wrecking Crew hat, right? Walking through the jungles of Belize in my Wrecking Crew hat, whatever I'm doing. So, shout out to that team, Call Out Culture, the whole deal. But yeah, we'll get together again, expert. It's been awesome talking to you about this stuff. So yeah, we'll rock out.
Peace.
Clean your dishes. Live from the apocalypse yet again. This is State of the Game. We're a renewable energy source in this hip hop game. So very happy, very lucky to be sitting with one of the most important people in this hip hop space right now, Televangel, who recently produced. You've been on a tear this year, right? I mean, this is, you've done Parthenon Shots where there was just heavy expectations around that follow up with AJ Suede, and you have, you've just been all over the place. You did Neutral Milk Motel last year, which just has stuck with me. And you recently did a full project with Sleep Sinatra, Incorruptible Saints, which might be his best lyrical album. So I can't wait to talk to you about, how you must have felt getting this stuff back, because this was heavy lifting on this one. How are you doing today?
Yeah, well, thanks for the introduction. Appreciate it. Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. It's you occupy an interesting space because you really, Metatron's Cube was, lightning. That was that kind of, everyone was talking about it, and everyone was talking about it as if you were this new commodity, There's this person, Televangel, but you've been around for 1,000 years, right?
Yeah. No, I think it was I guess it was fortunate that I was looked at as a new producer, because I guess it got a little more excitement out of it rather than just some washed guy who's been around forever. But yeah, I've been around. I've been putting out music since, my first album with Blues Color Like Death came out in 2006. So that's when I started releasing music professionally, quote unquote. So yeah, I've been around, but I think before Metatron's Cube, I was in a weird space. Wasn't really associated as much with the underground hip hop scene, even though I'd still been doing, on and off hip hop production, but that was really the album that kicked off sort of my renewed interest in doing underground hip hop full time. Full time as far as that's what I've been putting out. And I guess people looking at me as this new producer, which is kind of funny. But yeah, I still have people that are like, oh, you're the guy from Blues Color Like Death. So some people are still catching up, but yeah.
Yeah, and this has been a thing that we've talked about here at State of the Game. I'm a big regions person, right? And I think there was a narrative years ago where people were like, regions don't even matter anymore, man. It's the internet. Doesn't even matter, if people don't live places, they live on the internet, right? Makes sense. So I think your story is a great example of regionalism, right? The Northwest in this hip hop space doesn't get a lot of burn,
Yeah.
It's harder. It's just harder. I've talked to Suede about it.
Yeah. It's interesting because I've been associated with so many different cities, but yeah, now I think I'm sort of firmly rooted in the Pacific Northwest underground hip hop scene.
Yep.
If one exists, but yeah, it's I think it's cool. Suede, he's via Harlem, but he's very much associated with Seattle,
right?
Right. And Milk is the Portland hometown hero.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's working with those two guys in the last couple of years has helped I think it's helped further cultivate this sort of Pacific Northwest scene a little bit.
Yeah, it's spotty, right? Where you got Sir Mix-a-Lot, Blue Scholars, and you know the there's Nacho Picasso and
Yeah.
yeah. So there's it's just here and there. What I've heard is that the community on the ground is fuzzy about supporting rap music.
Yeah, I mean, so I can't Portland and Seattle are going to be a little bit different here, but and I only spent 2 years in Seattle, but because those Nacho albums were such like a kind of a benchmark for both of our music careers, it seemed like Seattle was an important place for me. But they definitely had a very strong scene as far as like people would go out and support the local rap stuff. You get people excited around it. People, journalists would be writing about it, but there was always a sense that you had to appeal to a certain like outside demographic. Like they weren't. I don't know. It was almost like they weren't writing as much about like the street rap going on there. And yeah, I don't know. And also it was kind of insular and well, I don't want to say anything negative about it, but it was like I think some people were like happy enough just being in the local scene and not looking to kind of expand outside of the city. And they weren't getting much recognition outside the city, which that's one of the problems. The infrastructure just wasn't really there, aside from like you have KXP and like Seattle Times and The Stranger.
Right.
But outside of that, there wasn't tons of national interest. I mean, and people were just a little quick to associate Macklemore with the scene, and that was like the entirety of what Seattle had to offer. But yeah, that like 2010s and beyond changed things a little bit, because I think when Nacho came out, it definitely opened up the horizons of what Seattle rap or Pacific Northwest rap could sound like. So yeah, it's interesting to start making this sort of hip hop stuff again 10 years later and kind of seeing what's been going on since.
Yeah, it is interesting. I was actually in Chicago recently on vacation, right? And I ran into someone who you are working with, and they're very excited. And it was like, Televangel is so different and so unique, and I don't even know if I can describe why. Like I don't even know if I have the words yet. But I was listening to Zod today, and it was just hearing Sleep kind of hum it before it starts. The beat.
Yeah.
And then being like, oh, it's because it feels like you're giving a cinematic soundtrack to someone's thoughts.
Oh yeah.
Rather than just laying down a beat, right? It feels like the soundtrack to somebody's brain.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely felt like I could probably go in really any direction with Sleep, just because he's got the contemplative sort of lyrics, self-reflective lyrics, rich voice, and he kind of just sounds, I mean, he hasn't, from what I've heard, he hasn't done tons of sort of like melodic stuff, but so I wanted to play with that a little bit more.
Yeah.
But yeah, he just sounds good over really everything. So I felt like it was easy for me to just explore sound.
Yeah. Yes, I was going to ask you about like, when did you feel like you wanted to work with Sleep Sinatra?
So I got associated with him through Suede. And then I was like, oh, let's get him on the Milk album, because Milk and I both mentioned that we like him.
Yep.
So he was down. And then so that kind of is what kicked it off. And then after that, I don't know if he might have asked to do more. I think, we were both just down to work more, and we didn't really know what would become of it other than like, let's just record a few tracks and like maybe just do an EP or something. But the EPs always turn into LPs for for everyone, because I'm like, if we're gonna do 7 tracks, let's do a couple more, make it an LP. It's not too much more effort, and like I just feel like EPs are gonna be looked over a little more.
It's one of the things we talk about a lot here. We hear these stories all the time where we were doing a song, it turned into an EP, it turned into an LP, and really what it turns into is take full advantage of your positive relationships.
Right.
If you're in the studio, you make a song, it was great, it was easy. Make another one. You know what I mean?
No, I mean, that speaks to what just happened last week, because actually did it was a long time coming, but we had this 10-year anniversary for Nacho Picasso BSPD Exalted album that we did at this record shop in town, because they actually put out the vinyl. So we wanted to do this sort of like tiny desk, intimate setting thing. It was supposed to happen last year. Nacho got really badly injured and was like paralyzed for months. It was like a working out injury, like I forget what the name was, but he was basically just going too hard. And he was paralyzed from the waist down for a while, and like slowly started getting movement back. But so we rescheduled it last week, and I'd been texting with him for over the past couple of years, and be like, yo, are you gonna like let's do some tracks together. I knew he was retired, and his inspiration had kind of slowed down. He was in like a better, more healthy space, but his artistic inspiration had slowed down a bit. So I really didn't know how much we were going to get done. But like you said, like if you're in a place where you can make a couple tracks and just keep going, and that's really what happened last weekend. He was like, I think we could do 2 tracks, and in my mind, I'm like, I hope we can do more, because you're going to be here all weekend. Let's right. And we recorded 10 tracks, so that was exciting.
That's dope. I mean, that's incredible. I mean, but that is like, the more I dive into this aspect of things, the more I realize that it's kind of all about the relationships,
Yes.
The formation of the relationship, knowing what you have in common, and the exploration of the relationship, and just building with each other. Like, you have strengths I don't have, I have strengths you don't have, let's do this together. And that's why, like, when I hear something like Canonized, I was like, man, I've never heard Sleep in this zone, like fully singing. But it's not a stretch, because Sleep's hooks are awesome.
Yeah. No, I was stoked when he sent back those little melodic things, and I was definitely like, yo, you should do that more, because I was trying to encourage that for sure. I liked it. I always like when rappers do a little bit of singing.
Yep.
Even if it's like not traditionally, I mean, I think his singing's dope, but I mean, like, even when it's like just a little rough around the edges, I just like it.
Yep.
And so that one little like wordless chorus on Fireforge, that was just like a little bridge, but I was like, let's just use that as the hook. I liked how that turned out. But like Sleep is actually, we haven't met, and it was funny because we did the Rap Plug podcast, and that was our first time on camera together.
With Rohan,
with Rohan, we hadn't even talked on the phone. Our relationship was text based, and as long as the artist is fine with that, I'm fine with it too. I'm not a huge phone guy, but he also I could tell before we even started working together that he was like a really easygoing guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that we would gel well together. Because I definitely did make like sort of, I've had the intention of the last several years of like, I really only want to work with people that I can consider friends. Right. And that's not to say I haven't reached out and met new people because I didn't know Milk until probably 2021 maybe. But you know, like if we vibe together, then yeah, like it's gonna make the music that much more fun, and hopefully that comes out in the music.
There's a Billy Woods had a couple legendary interviews on Call Out Culture podcast. He said something that I'll never forget, right? He said, because he's running back Woods, he's talking about who to bring on and how to work with him. And he said it's a balance. It's always a balance of talent and how easy you are to work with.
Oh,
always that balance.
Yeah, 100%. Like, yeah, it's not like there's tons of people out there that I would want to work with. I just don't know, but you know, they might not be easy to work with. I mean, I don't know, but it's I've had enough experiences doing music for over 15 years that I know, like, all right, it's probably not worth it. It's not going to be fun. So why am I doing this? Like,
yeah,
I don't need to work with someone who's not fun to be around. Or
and by the way, my stance on this is practical, right? If I don't think there's enough money in this scene for anybody to be acting like an asshole.
100%. Yeah.
It's like, you know what I mean? If there were millions of dollars on the table and people were cutthroat, I get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, you know, we're selling, you know, digital streams, couple of clip for $10. Like, there's just nothing in
niche
here that makes it so you need to do that.
Right. Yeah, this is way too niche to have the egos going crazy.
Right. We're all good.
I mean, I want everyone to be confident in their ability, and everyone I've worked with is very confident in what they can do, but they're just also regular people that have that, you know, taking care of their kids or going to their day job or, you know, whatever. Like, it's, yeah, there's no reason to be crazy egocentric doing underground hip hop.
Right? No reason. But by the way, you have worked with some rapping ass rappers. I appreciate that about you. It's been awesome to watch, you know. I mean, the Suede, the relationship with Suede is incredible. And by the way, I just have to say on Shots, right? Parthian Shots. The song that kills me every time is Goodbye.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Goodbye is to me one of the songs of the year. There's something, and it was like that on Metatron's Cube. My favorite thing on Metatron's Cube was the song with the 4 hours late.
Oh yeah, 3 hours. Yeah.
3 hours late. Like, it, when you can get Suede with a singer, there's just something about it that's just, this is another level to me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I thought that track, we're definitely kind of joking when we made it, like, oh, this is the sync song, the song where we get sync deals. That hasn't happened yet, but
it's awesome.
No, I definitely think that chorus is like chorus of the year.
Oh,
like, yeah, Rich Jones killed that, and he did that in like, he wrote and recorded it in like 10 minutes. I mean, the whole thing from him showing up, he was only here for 30 minutes in the studio. So, yeah, luckily, like, the beat was already playing when he came in. He immediately liked it. So we didn't have to like go through various tracks. It was like, he gelled with it immediately. But yeah, I love that too. And it also kind of like made Suede do a little bit more of the double time thing, which was cool to hear.
Yeah.
And it was like, part of me is like, oh, I wish that wasn't the last track, because that the last tracks always get sort of, they don't get the attention that the first 5 tracks get, but it's called Goodbye, and it's like, we had to put it there.
No, yeah, I love it. It's been, it's an interesting thing to think about. In Chicago, I got to meet Rich, and I got to show my family, and it was important for me. Like we got to see him perform as well, because
cool.
Rich is such a nice guy.
Yeah.
I still wanted them to know, like, this dude is a genius. Like, this is a nice guy, but he's also another level. And they got to see all of it, so that was cool.
That's dope.
You are perplexing to me for another reason. It always takes me a minute to catch up to your mixes. Every time you release a project, my first reaction is always, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about the mix. And then I have to live with it for a while, and then I'm like, I was on vacation in Belize, and I was just like burning Neutral Milk Hotel over and over again. I was just like, fuck. Your mixes are different to me. Am I imagining this?
No. I think a lot about the mixes, and I'm very intentional with them, but I don't have a set way either. Like each project I'll mix differently. Like, I mean, some of them will have similarities, but like the Sleep mix sounds a lot different than Parthian Shots to me.
Yep.
Like AJ is really in the mix, and we talked about that. He basically wanted every song on Parthian Shots to be mixed like what's the song called? It's 4x11.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it's funny because someone commented on the mix that his vocals were too quiet on YouTube on his video, but we liked how he sounded, like, because we were thinking we want it mixed more like it's a band rather than he's doing karaoke. So we don't want the music to be background music. We want it to be sort of you just want him in the mix, want him living in the mix. But then the Sleep album, I was like, no, I'm gonna have, because his voice is just like, I don't know, has a different timbre to it than a lot of rappers that I've worked with.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah. So I definitely mixed him a little more on top. Yeah. And then the Milk project, we were both like, we just want that one pretty dirty and dusty sounding. Mm-hmm. He's a guy that doesn't record many dubs, stabs, or even ad libs. I mean, he'll do the occasional, but he's like a one vocal track guy. And he doesn't want his stuff too shiny sounding.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did some extra, like, I wanted him in the mix too. And I know some people had opinions on it for sure. And this next album I'm doing with him will sound totally different from that one, because
that's your way.
It's a different album. And yeah, I just wanted to have a different sound.
Well, and in terms of the Suede relationship, Suede's voice is so steady, right? His tone is so steady that sometimes you forget how durable he is in terms of flow, right? Yeah. How he can just fit over everything. And so if he can fit over everything, why not explore that?
Right. Yeah. No, totally. Yeah, he's super versatile in how he, like, like, you'll know the Suede flow. He definitely has a signature flow, but he sounds good over tons of different types of production.
Yep.
And if we do, I don't know what our next collaboration might be. If it's, I don't know if it's gonna be something else with another rapper. We don't fully know. We haven't talked too much about it. I'm sure we're gonna work again. But I feel like it's gonna have to be different. It's gonna have to be departure from Parthian Shots. Like, Parthian Shots was definitely like an unofficial follow-up. Like, we definitely want it to be its own thing. Initially we were thinking like, oh, let's do a Metatron's Cube Part 2.
Right.
But I think we both like wanted to do something that just stands on its own rather than be having the stigma of the expectations, even though people are going to have expectations regardless. But still, I think it gives us a little more freedom to not associate it with the previous project.
Right. You do Metatron's Cube 2, 3, and then you're trapped in a Fast and Furious loop, right? Where whereas think about the Coen brothers, who kept the same actors, right, and just made new movies. You know,
exactly.
And that's kind of the better way to be in my mind.
No, I agree. Yeah.
So Sleep, I've long referred to Sleep as rap game Magneto. And especially on this album, he sounds like if Redman was Malcolm X.
Wow, that's dope.
And there's some incredible lines here. That are just, staggering. And when did you start to feel like, did you start to feel like, shit, this is even better than the stuff I've heard? Like,
yeah, no, for sure. I knew he was telling me like I'm right, like just his writing level. He was like, telling me that it was elevated, just I guess because he was really inspired by what I was sending him. And he just seemed like he was excited to work too, because like he was like a BSBD fan, so I think he was just like really wanted to make the most of working together. And yeah, like it was, because he's a busy guy, like we're both working on multiple things at once. He was only sending back, like one or two tracks like every couple weeks, I would say. Right. So right. It wasn't like a big pack. So it was like, it wasn't until, 4 songs in, we're like, oh, like this is amounting to be really, really good. And yeah. And also I have to listen to the lyrics like a lot of times where they really start to sink in, because usually on first listen, I'm just like thinking about how it sounds as a song, how it sounds as the whole package. And then when I've heard it enough, I'm starting to really dig into the lyrics. And he's definitely one of those rappers that is in a similar way of Suede, where they're kind of maybe it's because of their delivery, they're not super flashy, they're kind of subtle, so they're not like banging you over the head with like a bar. Like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of an example where it's like it's very obvious when the rapper thinks this is the bar you're supposed to be paying attention to.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're both subtle because he's so like on a sort of like introspective, you really have to give it your full attention.
Yeah, I mean, I'm wearing my Gil Scott-Heron shirt here.
Oh, nice.
And that's to me a good vocal comp, or a good artistic comp for like Sleep, somebody like Sleep. Yeah. Because Sleep's highly intellectual, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of smart discourse in this music, but it's also incredibly human.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's real human personal moments where he is breaking it down, and you feel the weight of it. You know what I mean? Yeah. The first song, right? Found strength in the beauty of love, and it keeps going.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think I mean, that was the first track he sent me, which is funny because that ended up being the first track that we put on the album. I was like, yeah, like it sounded, I don't know, I think the music just really matched with like the urgency of his lyrics. Like it sounded cinematic, of course, but like urgent. But I don't think it was until he sent shit, I'm blanking on the name. Second track.
Oh, the second one, Blacksmith, right?
Oh no, sorry, not Blacksmith. Third track, Widow Speak.
Widow Speak.
I was like, damn, like he's going next level, and it just sounded so important. I don't know, for lack of a better word. But that's definitely my favorite track. I think that's both of our favorite tracks. But
oh man, I don't feel like I'm on Lidocaine, right?
Yeah. Just that opening bar was like hard, and I don't know. I loved how the production worked with his raps on that one.
And we had Sleep on to talk about Redman's "There Is a Dark Side."
Oh, nice.
And it was, I mean, I had never thought of Redman as someone who was a deep influence on Sleep, but I think, like, now that you talked about it, and he tells you, you think about it, and feeling like I'm on lidocaine is a really good example of, like, Redman could ambush you.
Yeah.
And just take over a song,
Right.
And I think that's kind of, Sleep still has that instinct. And once he gets you, then he can develop into these deeper themes, but he still is going to punch your lights out,
For sure. No, I mean, he's definitely has a pretty expansive taste in hip hop. I mean, which
Yep.
now, I mean, I feel like now it's very common. Like everyone I work with has a more diverse range of inspiration than you would think when you listen to their music, just because you associate them in a very specific pocket. But yeah, no, he's definitely like a student of the game, and
no question.
Yeah.
No question. And yeah, just a unique voice where you can feel his experiences in it. I'm glad to hear Widow's Peak is your favorite. I love Widow's Peak. It's kind of an example. I mean, this is an album with all kinds of amazing co-stars, right? And guest features that really do inform and change the way Sleep speaks,
Yeah.
But I just can't get enough of when it's just him.
Yeah.
Like I'm like,
yeah.
oh shit, here he goes.
Yeah.
And so it speaks highly of him and what he does. Yeah.
For sure.
And yeah. And so the way the album worked, you said you sent him a beat, he would send it back to you, and it would take some time. So you were kind of able to recalibrate what you wanted to send him as it was going along, right?
Oh, definitely. And I knew, because this is like my pretty typical process, is like the beats that I send you, it's not necessarily as how it's going to sound when it's over, because once I hear their vocals on a track, a lot of times I'm like, oh, I can either make this existing track a lot better, or I think I have something that would actually work better with this.
Yep.
And so that happened quite a few on the album, or that happened to quite a few of the tracks on the album. Like, not Widow's Peak, although I did do a lot of post-production.
Yeah.
Not Sleep. Those were definitely the original tracks, but like Blacksmith with AJ was on a completely different beat. The vibe was totally different.
Fire Forged? What about Fire Forged?
Fire Forged was on a different beat as well, because I realized I'd already given or sold the original beat to someone else. And that one was a little bit more difficult, only because there was that melodic part. And I was like, okay, I have to switch it out for something that's in key, which isn't always a big deal, but I'm glad that I switched it out, because I really like how that one turned out. Yeah, let's see. And then Creative Player and Magica were also switched out. But yeah, Canonized Zod and Incorruptible Saints were the original beats. But I do a lot of post production, so it's definitely quite a bit different from the beats that he gets.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean and Fire Forged, I think Sleep posted about that today. It said, posse track of the year. It stands out to me because it's one of the only songs, it might be the only song, you could correct me, where Sleep doesn't start it off. Like Lord Olo starts it off.
Yeah, and that, I suggest that only because I think it's cool to sometimes have one voice be broken up by a different voice.
Yeah.
And plus we were just so happy with like Olo's verse, or like, let's just have him start it out.
Crazy verse.
It is a really good verse, and I'm excited for people to get a little more acquainted with him, because I think he's a really unique talent, and his he's getting, he's I think he's still young. I'm not sure his age, but yeah, we're starting to work together on some music, so we'll have more in the pipeline.
Yeah. No, that Lord Olo and Milk, I mean, it just worked.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Yeah, Milk came over and I played in that track, and for him, he's said himself, he's an endless well. So like he just have a million verses on his phone. So I'm like, oh, I think I got a good one for this. And then I sent it to Olo after Milk had recorded. And then, so that's how that turned out.
Yeah, you get the feeling that he loves to rap.
Yeah.
That like Milk just loves to rap. Like he's just one of those people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's cool. And yeah, I mean, and the other one that I think is a real necessary gem in the album is, like I said, this is 9 songs, but it when we say like an album feels short, this album feels longer because there's so much happening lyrically. This is a novel, right? This is not a movie. And Create a Player with Archibald Slim is a real good, like, intermezzo. It's a real good, like, breather, I guess. Does that make sense?
Yeah, this might be the one track where I was like, oh, I think I'm kind of making like an almost danceable hip hop track for Sleep, which I don't know if he's ever been on one.
Right.
I know he's got a deep catalog, and I haven't even heard a lot of what he's made, but from what I had heard, I was like, I don't think he's been on something that you could like that type of with the sort of like, I was definitely going for like I don't even, what's the era, like it was like vaguely Dilla inspired, but yeah. And I was like, because I flipped that beat out for the original one. Yeah. And then I was like, I think this one could actually have someone like Archie on it would sound really cool, because it definitely had more of like a slightly more of a West Coast sound to me, even though he's from the South.
Yeah, he's from Atlanta.
Sleep is Midwest, but it still felt like one of those sort of like vague, where it could be East Coast, could be West Coast, could be down South. It definitely wasn't just like a straight up boom bap track. It's funny because I suggested Archie, and I had not realized that they'd just previously worked together. And so
yeah, it kind of sounds like maybe that era where it was like post Dungeon Family, post Ify, kind of, where all the sounds were a little bit mixing together, because and it doesn't get covered much. We talked about it a little bit in the No Limit episode, because the No Limit cats were from California and had lived in California,
right?
And but were just as comfortable in New Orleans, so they brought a lot of California to the New Orleans, and that's why Snoop was very comfortable signing with No Limit. And so there's always been a connectivity between Southern and West Coast rap, because both regions felt like the East Coast hated them.
Right. Well, yeah, you had the sort of, a lot of the Southern migration of Black folks to the West Coast.
Yep.
So there's, obviously a lot of familial ties too. But, and also just what you just said. And also I think there's probably a closer sonic similarities between the West Coast and Southern rap. And they're both getting a little bit shunned by New York rap at a certain point.
What was it? There was like an Andre 3000 interview legendarily where he was talking about the regions that it's all about weather, right? That like the East Coast, like, I was listening to Wu-Tang in a cold like garage where I could see my breath. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's where that music exists, right?
No, it's totally true. Also, like the car culture of the South and the West Coast, it makes so much more sense in terms of how the music sounds.
Yep.
Yeah.
Riding music. Right.
Yeah.
So it's, yeah, if you listen to Larry June's music, it exists in the sunshine, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that makes sense. But yeah. Oh man. There's so many beautifully mean beats on this album. The title track, Incorruptible Saints, is just like, I can hear it in my head now. And what is cool about your production on this is it's not overly complicated. It's not overly ornate. In a way, it's not like, I don't know. I don't want to, that may sound insulting, but you know when the beat is done, right?
Yeah.
And these are just really earwigs that brought it out of it. It's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I've definitely trying to figuring out when a song is done that's always been sort of a challenge for me, because a lot of my music has been sort of maximalist, and I've tried to scale it back a little bit. Mm-hmm. Just because, like, I don't think, like, I think I used to be like really competitive. It was about like, oh, I always have to prove myself, so I got to do more to it. But now I'm like, I don't really feel like I need to do that anymore, and I got to let the rapper breathe a bit. And yeah, I really liked how that last track turned out.
Yeah, I mean, it's the tricky part about being a creative entity is that the work you're doing exists one way in your mind and a totally different way in the audience's mind.
Right.
Right. So you may be adding more and more to that, and you may be actually cluttering something that would be much better for the audience without all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. The audience a lot of times doesn't care how hard or challenging or impressive, quote unquote, some production technique is, right?
No.
They might just like a loop just because it's a great loop, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously we gotta keep those things in perspective. At the same time, I'm like trying to balance it between what I get out of it.
And I do still think the audience is smart enough to know when you have a plan, right?
Yes.
You like this person has a plan for this song. I remember hearing like some local cats. I will not obviously name names. I'm in Maine, so just hearing some local cats, and they would get like all their best people together and load these songs up. And I remember thinking, man, like that flute sound is in there for 5 seconds, never comes back. What was the point of it? Like, you know what I mean? What is this? What is the plan here?
Yeah.
Are you just throwing things in?
Yeah.
So that's the danger with the maximalist
style. Yeah. No, I hear you on that. No, and not to, I don't want to speak, I don't want anyone to misinterpret. Obviously, we respect the audience.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of times the audience is right. Like if a loop sounds great, then do the loop. It's fine. Mm-hmm. I have my own sort of like standards that I don't necessarily need to adhere to, but for some reason in my mind, maybe it's like it's just some self-imposed restriction that I should let go of. But I have my little certain standards I try to stick to. But yeah, I know what you're saying about the flute that comes in. Sometimes I like to put in something that I'm like, oh, that's so cool, but I only want it to come in like twice just to like kind of fuck with people. Like, because I'll have the same thing where I'm like, wait, why don't they put that in more? Like, off the top of my head, I'm thinking of the TONY beat on Capone Noriga's War Report.
Love it.
It's like that's like one of my favorite tracks on the album. But there's this one part where there's like a that like comes in. I think they only have it come in like maybe twice. I might be off on that, but it that always stuck with me because I'm like, man, that's like the best part, and they're like teasing you by not putting it in more, but maybe that's cool. So I don't know.
And you remember being in rap arguments with people and being like, God, that interlude beat should have been the whole beat. or
Yeah,
like
exactly.
that outro beat was better than the beat. Like
sometimes I like to do that. Or I mean, sometimes I like to do the little, I don't know if they'll be better, but like maybe some people will like them better. And I like just doing a really good switch up that's only like 8 bars, and then
right,
like, oh damn it, I want that to come back in. But
yeah, I mean, and there's like some of my favorite artists are artists who just always have a good plan. You know, we're talking about this with the expert about how my definition of a great MC has changed, right?
mm-hmm.
And it used to be very simple. It used to be just like bars.
Right.
But now, like, and I remember talking to Sleep about this, right? Like, he's like getting more acquainted with who does good cover art. You know, shout out to Big Flowers who did the cover art on this.
Yeah, amazing art.
Amazing artist. And so getting acquainted with all this stuff, you know, mixing and mastering and like all the different elements of making a great album, taking full responsibility. So yeah, it's something that has definitely changed and gained power, and it's something we think about as an audience more because there's less big label stuff out there.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, Sleep and AJ are really good one man. Like, not that they all do their own art all the time, although I know AJ does do his own art sometimes. But yeah, as far as just like they're both rappers who have plans, who are very intentional and hardworking, and are like basically a one-man operation, you know.
Yeah. Sleep is also a very, very good producer. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They both produce very well. They rap very well.
Yep. Suede kills it. Yeah. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, they're promoting their stuff.
Yep.
If they're not doing their own art, they're outsourcing it to very good artists. And yeah.
There's a theme. So as you're hearing these tracks come back, right? They're so lyrical. And as you said, the first track comes back to you first, and that's dense, and that has some incredible stuff in it. Where, you know, stigma on the black man, fixing himself ain't cool. Just a lot of really good conversation happening there. But did you pick up on any themes lyrically that he was exploring? Is there anything that sticks in your mind as like, this is kind of what this album's about?
I felt like, yeah, of course there's themes of his, you know, he's been very vulnerable on the album.
Yep.
There's a sort of like overcoming theme.
Yep.
But I also felt like it was almost say vague, but it wasn't so singular that it really needed like one specific title. He came up with the title Incorruptible Saints, and I thought that was super fitting, and it also just sounds cool.
Yeah, definitely sounds cool.
Yeah. And so then we decided, okay, like I think we want to get Big Flowers on the art. And he was pretty adamant that he wanted to hear the project and create the art around how he interpreted it. So that's another cool thing about that, because it's not just the artistic dialogue between Sleep and I, but between the Big Flowers, the cover artist, because he's in on the conversation and gets to have his own interpretation of how it should be represented visually. So
yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful cover with a lot of really distinct colors that are kind of bright colors but faded versions of bright colors.
Yeah,
it's a really good process that he put into that. I'm glad he got a chance to hear the album and create from that place. It's, for me, one of the things I think about when I hear this album is that it is about the issues that scarcity creates. Scarcity comes in the lyrics a few times, right? Directly mentioned. There was it Magica or no, the title track, coming from a place of scarcity, why we driven. When younger, it would translate to creating victims.
That's fire.
Yeah, I mean, there was scarcity is mentioned a few times, and it seems to just be talking about how the lack of resources in these areas create all of this tension, right? And all of this negativity around, violence and crime, because we're all fighting over this very small space.
Right. Which is a manufactured problem, by the way. Like,
correct.
It's not for lack of resources. It's purposefully starved areas, right?
Yes. Yeah. So you are waiting for, money from a system that is that was built against you, right?
Right.
So that's bad business. And it sucks. But it is one of those things where Incorruptible Saints takes on a lot of meaning, right?
Yeah.
Because it's saying, like, I won't be corrupted anymore by this environment. I won't be, there's a balance. You still got to survive the environment,
Right.
Canonized. I watch these rappers acting closely, commando with the war speech, right? There's like, you're always looking, and you're still like survival mode, but you're also trying to be a better person.
Yes.
And Sleep is very aware that he needs to be better for everyone, right? Not just for his kids, but for the people who are listening, and this might affect their life.
Right.
So it's a heavy responsibility.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm glad you're picking up what he's putting down.
Yeah.
But it's cool to have, because making underground music can be sort of a thankless endeavor a lot. Or you get in that mind frame that you think it's like, what are we doing this for? But I just want to appreciate people that are really taking the time to not just listen passively, but really engage with it, and like what you're doing, and really.
Yeah, as we said, if there just isn't a ton of money, right? Well, like, what was it? Zaytoven at one point, this was way back. Zaytoven, during the heat of the run that he had with, Gucci Mane and everybody, kind of said, we're not worried about legacy. We're making hits, right? We're banging out jams. That makes sense for Zaytoven's tax bracket. Right?
Yeah.
That totally makes sense. But if you're on this level, like, Incorruptible Saints is great because it will always mean something real.
Yeah.
Whether, years from now, when people are like, what is the new thing? What is the hot thing? Incorruptible Saints will still be standing there, meaning something relevant, and personal, and be an important part of the journey for both of them.
Yeah. I mean, the lyrics are never going to be, well, especially him, he's not really using pop culture references, stuff that can be restricted to a specific time. I mean, like, his themes unfortunately have been relevant and will probably be relevant for a while.
Right.
So he's definitely like a timeless type of artist.
And it's important because I think rap music doesn't get enough credit for helping America engage with conversations about race.
Yeah.
It's been a big part of how people digested rap music.
Yeah.
And learned about people, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, I mean, and I think of not to like reduce any other sort of genres of music that are still maybe relevant, but I do think of like rap music as being the last form of really relevant folk music. And there's still current sort of like traditional folk music that
right.
I might like, but I think in terms of really representing sort of just a voice that is sort of a voice that's trying to be snuffed out and that's not taken over by corporate interests, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously rap has been taken over by corporate interests, but
sure.
I still think there's so much out there that you can find, whatever streaming platform or YouTube or whatever. And every city, there's thriving culture of kids expressing themselves through rap music.
I think the difference is rap didn't give up to the corporate interests, right? Like rap kept fighting the corporate interests, and there still is a culture around it. There still is one of the things I say to my wife all the time is one of the things I love about rap music is you always have to prove that you should be in the room.
Yeah.
Everybody always looks at you as an outsider until you prove you're not.
Yeah.
And that's good.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I mean, obviously,
keeps the wrong people out of the room.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, I'm an outsider in the sense that I'm white, and
yeah.
And fortunately, I guess I've been able to be in the rooms based off the fact that I just have a genuine love for it, and I'm not pretending to be anyone I'm not. And I just I love music.
I mean, to be a good guest, right?
Yeah.
We're good guests here, and making the party live, and we're helping people out. But it's not our party, and that's cool. Like it's cool to be a good guest. Yeah. I mean, I love Incorruptible Saints. It is very powerful. Yeah, I'm very glad. And I think people should, especially when you hear, I don't know, there's a connectivity between Sleep and Stik Figa that's really interesting. People should listen to Sleep's verse on My All, which is on Ritual. That's crazy. Those two have a real interesting relationship because they're both MCs that like were almost too normal for people.
Yeah.
Right? They didn't have a hook. It wasn't like a juicy hook to what was going on, which sometimes the media looks for to blow people up. Sleep is sleep, you know.
They got the everyman quality to them.
Yep.
And also, I think they probably have to. I mean, not probably. They definitely have to fight a lot harder to be heard because of where they're from. I mean, I can literally not name any other rapper from Nebraska. So.
Nope.
I should be able to now that I've worked with someone from Nebraska, but yeah, unfortunately, like, and I mean that's all the more impressive. So, shout outs to both of them for like making a name for themselves.
Absolutely.
So much. Like I know Sleep's mentioned he's got to work a lot harder than people on the coast, and I think that's true.
I think it's absolutely true. Yeah. I mean, you can if you're living in New York, LA, you can walk outside and run into important people. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
It's just different. Like I run into that in Maine, being from Maine. Like COVID is what leveled this, you know?
Yeah.
Because I can't walk outside and meet up with some important person. It's not, you know, I'm next to a chicken farm, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it enabled me to jump in with spaces with amazing people like you and be able to talk about this stuff. And yeah, you're doing something really unique. Just to salute you. I think I was starting to think about what you were adding sonically as like you do provide this kind of avant-garde rap music, right? The fancier rap music, but the kind that bangs, right? The kind that knocks, the kind that is like still gloriously fun to listen to, right? It's not too studious, right? Where it's lost its flavor.
Right.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
No, totally. I mean, yeah, I don't ever want my music to come off too pretentious to the point where it's just not enjoyable. Like, I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of stuff that I've listened to, I've been a fan of in the past that's pretentious, but no, I always want like I love melody too much to fully succumb to like the avant-garde stuff. But yeah, I definitely want it to I don't think rap music needs to be elevated in any certain sense, but like yeah, I'm definitely I guess I'm trying to do what you just described. but
Right.
yeah, like
you provide a great stage, the right stage for highly intellectual people to get their thoughts across, right? In music. And like that's a hell of a skill set because there's a lot of people out there who are incredibly smart, incredibly dope, but finding the right beat for that is not easy.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I mean, I feel fortunate that I'm able to do this. It's really, it's fun. It's also cool, like just having grown up being fans of so many people that I'm now peers with is really trippy too. And yeah, I think I hopefully people can hear that I still enjoy making music because I definitely don't want to make anything that sounds forced or too studious, like you said.
Right.
I want it to be always want it to be fun enough, you know. Like I love serious music too, and I think there is a resurgence of very serious rap right now, which is cool.
Yes.
But I also want to have those fun moments in my music as well.
Maybe that's what I would say is the most powerful thing about the run you're on right now is balance. The balance that you maintain between all these aspects of showcasing the voice, having fun, melody, mood, intricacy, right? All this stuff. The balance that you've been able to strike, I think, is what has really thrown you headfirst into the conversation.
Oh, appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I think when you see how the scene really has this pendulum that goes back and forth. When I say the scene, I'm very loosely just talking about hip hop in general. And obviously there's all these micro scenes involved, but because I've been doing it for, a good while now, you see the pendulum swing from like more of a party vibe back to its more like serious and intellectual space. And now because I've been a part of like multiple iterations, like doing the nacho stuff was very like not serious and fun music and kind of silly and over the top. Now I'm kind of like, well, I can do both. Like I love the serious stuff, but I also love silly stuff. So
absolutely, do it either way. Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time. I was going to switch into recommendation corner briefly, so we could shout out other people's albums that we should be listening to.
sure.
And I'm going to go straight off guests that are on Incorruptible Saints. I'm going to go with Al Chimera by Lord Olo.
That was gonna be mine.
Which is dope. And I would say also the other one is Worldly Ways by Archibald Slim.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one.
Passion Weiss Recordings, by the way, POW Recordings. Follow them on Bandcamp. They do some really cool work. Chester Watson's new album is great. Just always keep them bookmarked because they will throw you for a loop. It's really great.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Shout out to both of them. I was going to say Alshamer as well. Very good album.
Yep.
Shout out Christ Koopa, who produced most of the album. He's a great producer.
Yep.
Underappreciated, but yeah, he's kind of came out of the that Seattle scene that I was a part of 10 years ago. He's still making great beats, so people's ears need to go towards that.
Yep. It's KHRIST, right? Yeah.
Yep. Christ Cooper. He's got a lot of dope stuff on his Bandcamp. If you guys aren't familiar with UDF.
Yeah, I definitely listened to some stuff. I mean, he's got some great projects. Yeah.
Yeah. What else can I recommend? I would check out the Old Grape God and Big Flowers album. Is really cool.
That's a good one.
So Grape God, no father to his style. Mm-hmm. Although when I do know, because I do know his influences, I can hear his influences, but also he doesn't sound like anyone else.
Yeah, it's I Turn the Room to a Lava Lamp.
Yep.
Old Grape God and Big Flowers, and his flow is very unconventional. We talked to him last year.
Cool.
And I just get the feeling that he loved doing art and he loved doing poetry before he really loved hip hop. And so he's just from that state. He just that's why you really can't hear much of a father to his style because he's just putting it together however he wants.
Yeah, he does stand up as well, so you can kind of hear that in the music. And he's like, his favorite rapper is Mac Dre, so you can kind of hear that in the music.
Yeah.
And he's a great artist too. Yeah, he's just an all-around artiste,
Right.
And I thought Big Flowers really did a great job of providing with the perfect soundtrack because he's not an in the pocket rapper, and they're not in the pocket beats, so it really worked. This
is the first Old Grape God project that has had like soul sample stuff to it.
Yeah.
So it was a different thing, and I know Big Flowers is very impressed with Old Grape God's work ethic and just ability to crank stuff out, and it's a fun album people should check out, definitely.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
I think that's probably all I got.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
It's a great one.
I deeply appreciate your time. To be able to talk to someone that's done what you've done is fabulous. And I don't take it for granted. Hit me with anything that you're coming out new. Especially if you come out with a new Milk album.
Yep. That's pretty much done. We got some cool guests on there as well. It's gonna sound different. I'm excited. I'm excited for everyone to hear it for sure.
Hit me early. Beautiful.
Yeah, we'll do. And thanks for having me on. That was a really good conversation.
Yeah, we killed it.
Tomorrow.